Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thank you so much for joining us here on a Wednesday as preparations for the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs are officially underway. On today's show, we got some details about Ja'Marr Chase's contract talks. We've got some numbers that we can throw around a little bit on today's show. Some details that have come out regarding the whole situation. So we'll dive into that. Also, Zach Taylor had his weekly Wednesday press conference today. Joe Burrow also spoke, so we will touch on some things that they said. And the Bengals also released their injury report, first one of the week. They released it a little late. It was supposed to come out around 4 o'clock, so that's why our show's not getting out till a little bit later today. But they were a little late releasing that injury report, so we will break that down as well. But make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. We are trying to beat our September 2023 sub total. And we had a great watch party for week one, despite the result, of course. Got a lot of additional subscribers through that. But as you can see, we still need 590 more subs this month in order to break that mark. So help us out. Help yourself out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. All right, so why was there no deal with Ja'Marr Chase prior to week one? Like I said at the top of the show, some details have come out regarding what exactly the mix-up was between the two sides, the organization and, of course, Chase and his team. And James Rapien did a phenomenal job kind of breaking this down. Does an outstanding job covering the Bengals for Sports Illustrated. So let's take a look at what exactly Rapien wrote this morning. He said the two sides were close to an agreement, league sources say. In fact, the Bengals offered Chase a 4-year, $140 million contract with $90 million guaranteed. That guaranteed money included a $30 million signing bonus. Chase was willing to sign a 4-year extension that would have put him under contract through the 2029 season, sources say. His camp wanted the guaranteed money and injury protections to kick in earlier in the deal. That's when talks broke down. Essentially, the two sides couldn't agree on when Chase's guarantees would vest. In other words, become fully guaranteed. The Bengals' offer pushed it down the line to 2027, which would protect the franchise over the next few seasons. Meanwhile, Chase didn't have the assurance of guarantees early in the contract, which puts him at risk if he were to suffer a serious injury. There's a lot to unpack there, and we will get to that in a moment. I'll give you my thoughts on the whole situation. But first, the pinned comment of today's show. Will Ja'Marr Chase get a deal done during the season? They're still welcome and allowed and able to negotiate throughout the season, but the Bengals typically stop negotiations during the season. Will they change what they normally do? Will they make an exception to the rule for Ja'Marr Chase? Let us know in the comment section. Type Y for yes or N for no. Look, I have mixed feelings about the entire situation. I really have for a long point. It would be one thing if you just weren't close, right? If you weren't close, then I would totally agree with the franchise in this situation. If Chase was asking for just an outlandish number that you weren't trying to get him, that would be one thing. Because remember, he's not really, people his age and his that have played as long as he has in the league typically aren't getting extensions. So the leverage here is with the team. But if you're this close, why not just adjust the guarantees is what I don't understand. I didn't really realize that they were this close to a deal. I like the Bengals like to put the guaranteed money, push it back towards the end of the deal. But you made exceptions to all of your rules when you paid Joe Burrow. You have a similar caliber player here with Ja'Marr Chase, so why not bend the rules a little bit for him as well? I understand the Bengals are trying to protect themselves, as they should, as an organization. I don't have an issue with that. They have to look out for the betterment of the team, and if something were to happen to Ja'Marr Chase early on, they don't want to be chalking up a ton of guaranteed money right away. But if a big chunk of that $90 million guaranteed isn't at signing, I wouldn't sign it either. I think there's a lot of people out there like, oh, it's a ton of money. Why wouldn't Chase sign it? I understand if that guaranteed money isn't there at signing, it really, it has a different impact in terms of its guarantee. Because, if he were to get hurt early on, he's not protected. And ultimately, that's what Chase and his camp are looking for. They're looking for that protection if something were to happen. And that's why you don't have a deal at this point. I think both sides, there's a lot of blame to go around here. I think Jamar certainly and his camp isn't completely in the right, and I don't think the organization is either. All right, moving on, we got some injury news to discuss on today's show. Of course, Zach Taylor at his press conference today was very vanilla when addressing T. Higgins and his situation, but he did say he's making good progress. And there were some people, beat writers on the scene at today's practice that thought Higgins looked good. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show, but he was on the rehab field with some other guys as well. So good to see him at least out there, but of course he did not practice today. We'll have more updates for you guys as the week progresses in terms of his availability against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Some surprise injury news that popped up today. Logan Wilson did not practice and was listed on the injury report with a knee issue. Obviously, this is not good. I think a lot of people speculated that it could potentially just be a veteran day off as to why Wilson wasn't out there for the Bengals practice, but he does land on the injury report with a knee issue. That's certainly something to monitor. Thought Logan Wilson looked really, really good in the Bengals Week 1 opener against the Patriots. Now let's take a look at everybody else that found their way onto the injury report here this afternoon for the Bengals. Joe Burrow still keeps popping up on the report. Obviously, he was full, but that right wrist is still something that is landing him on the injury report. B.J. Hill got a little banged up in the Week 1 opener. He was limited today with a knee. Tanner Hudson, of course, who fumbled near the goal line, did not practice with a knee issue. Kris Jenkins, second-round pick out of Michigan, still out with a thumb issue. And Amarius Mims was limited with that pectoral issue that he has been dealing with. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys progress throughout the week, and if there's anybody on this list that surprisingly doesn't play, or perhaps somebody that does end up getting a chance to go out there. Interested to see how Mims fares throughout the remainder of the week. The main storyline here, of course, is T. Higgins / Logan Wilson, but T. Higgins, the hamstring, certainly is very noteworthy. What is your concern level with his hamstring injury? Scale it for us 1 to 10 in the comments section. Be honest with us. He's been trying to knock this injury-prone label. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for him thus far in the beginning of the year. So let us know in the comments. Sound off 1 to 10. What is your concern level with T. Higgins' hamstring injury? Before we continue with some updates from some of the beat writers that were at practice today, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. Look, I get Reds tickets all the time with Game Time. By the way, what's up with them just turning up in September for absolutely no reason at all? Anyway, it's an incredibly straightforward process when you get baseball tickets or whatever kind of tickets you want to get. You can get fired up for football season, get you some football tickets as well, potentially watch the Cincinnati Bengals at Pectoral Stadium. My two favorite features on Game Time. First, the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And secondly, seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, told you guys we would take a look at what some of the beat writers had to say. This is what Paul Dehner Jr. tweeted out. He, of course, was at Bengals practice. He said, Higgins doing work with Director of Rehab Nick Cosgray on the side field along with other injured guys. Moving pretty good as he goes through early high knees work. Certainly think this is a good sign, right? I think the Bengals certainly are taking this very slow and being very precautionary with how they are handling T. Higgins. Everybody knows the hamstring injuries are very, very delicate injuries that football players, especially guys like receivers and cornerbacks, suffer. So the fact he's out there, moving around on the rehab field, I think is certainly a good sign, and we will continue to monitor how he progresses throughout the week. And hopefully he can be out there on Sunday. I wouldn't bank on it. If I had to pick one way or the other at this point on Wednesday evening right now, I'd lean no, but we'll see. Still a couple of more days for us to figure that out. Another one from our guy, Trags. Thought this was interesting. Said Joe Burrow, of course, addressed the media today as well. Trags posted, absolutely not, Joe Burrow, on whether the wrist is keeping him from throwing the ball down the field. We got better today. We had a really good practice. I know there's kind of this whole saga with Joe Burrow and people monitoring his wrist. Oh, is it all right? And, whatever. I think the fact it keeps popping up on the injury report certainly is what causes people to speculate like that. But I think the wrist injury with Burrow is fine. I'm going to take his word for it. Obviously, I don't know, but based on what he says and the way he was out there on the football field, I think it is completely fine. But I just think part of the issue with Burrow is he just takes a couple games to get warmed up. That's kind of how it's always been throughout his career in Cincinnati. So I think the wrist is fine, and Joe Burrow is telling everybody that the wrist is fine as well. Last one, back to our guy, Paul Dehner Jr. from The Athletic. Thought this was kind of an interesting confession out of Burrow. Joe Burrow admits he was sped up a little bit last week. There were plays where we had happy feet in the pocket. Also admits he missed some of the one-on-one shots he had, working on that this week. And he kept repeating how good he felt today's practice went. So certainly a good sign. I always think it's good when Burrow comes back after a game and kind of says, you know what, this was something that needed to be better. I was kind of hoping he would have taken a little more accountability than what he did right after the game, and it certainly looks like he did that today at his media session, kind of saying, you know what, I can play a lot better, and I think that's what we all think as well. Thought he was fine, but, if you're the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, got to play a little bit better than that, and Joe Burrow, I think, certainly will continue to progress throughout the season. Not worried about that at all. Speaking of all the tweets, make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our content will be posted to my page. Bengals news, rumors, all the coverage, you'll find it there. And I also have my thoughts, my own personal thoughts and opinions on there as well. So help me out. Hit that follow button on Twitter at StoneShields_.